I'm Minister Emma from the Universal Law Community Trust, and we've been discharging people's debts now since 2016 through our We Buy Any Debt structure. Some of those debts have included We Are banks, promissory notes that haven't been honoured for various reasons, and the people have then had to come to us, and we have then assigned the debt across to our trust, and the structure discharges that. We don't charge people slave tokens for providing them with our services, and the reason for that is because you can't buy your way out of debt. If you have to use slave tokens in order to discharge your debt, then you're creating debt times 10 for every one of those slave tokens that you use. So I've been prompted to do this video by some of the members of the trust that have contacted me today and sent me a video link from a video that Peter of England has done on YouTube regarding a webinar that he's charging €20 or £20 for. After going on the website and seeing what it is that they're doing, first of all, it's copyright infringement and intellectual property theft, which Visa found out when they tried to steal kindness credits offers in 2016, that it's not something that we're going to stand for. Visa retracted all of the cards that they'd issued. They'd issued kindness credit cards in March 2016. And obviously that was a breach of well, it was the epitome of everything that kindness credits is not. So they had to retract all of their cards, and we continued doing what we were doing, which was to assign the debts to the trust that are created in the legal fiction and discharge them through the fact that, first of all, debt is fiction. We give you a promissory note that you can then yourself hold as a receipt, as a bill of exchange, or you can go and you can actually pay it into a bank account. And so we send you two. We send you one for discharging, and we send you one as a receipt for the deed that you undertook, and it's completely free. What we ask you for in return is not slave tokens, because we're aware that every one of those slave tokens that you use creates 10 times the 10 times the 10 in the debt, and it would be ludicrous of us to come to you and say, look at our amazing system of getting away from the debt slave system, but you need to pay us in order for us to do it with slave tokens. So I've been prompted by the people inside the trust that have seen this video to try to bring to your attention just the simplicity of what debt is, and how the kindness credits accounts work so that you can discharge them yourselves. The last thing that you want to be doing is assigning your consent back into making a contract with the system that has created all of this fictional debt in the first place. The idea of paying a bunch of lawyers £500 in order for you to do something that you can actually do just by pressing a button on one of our websites and sending a contribution to your community of 5 hours a week is absolutely staggering to me. So this is hopefully going to give you an overview of how kindness credits can relieve any indebted mindset that you might still possess. The way that this works, you simply go onto the website and you go onto universallawcommunitytrust.com and you read through the steps. Then you go onto the We Buy Any Debt site and you assign the debt. That then comes across to us, and we then create you an assignment of consent, transfer of liability notice. And in fact, Peter of England's done a very lovely job in explaining the process of how our process works, and thank you for that. What happens then is you then get a receipt, a bill of exchange, and you have sold your debt. It's very simple, as he says. However, what is very simple is the fact that you do not, and you really should not be considering creating a contract with anybody who has sworn an oath to the bar, and anybody who is encouraging such an act of fraud really needs to be prosecuted themselves. So the reason why the reason why I've done this video is to explain to you that this structure has already been working. We've got evidence to prove that people, for example, who've sent over their electricity bills have had them discharged. The bill comes, and at the bottom of the pay-in slip, for example, we had one that we've put on the website. It says you owe us 600 and something slave tokens, and then at the bottom it's 0. The problem that you've got trying to prove something that doesn't exist, you can only stop it from existing in people's minds. And while it continues to exist in people's minds, then obviously we're still involved in this slavery system that we're all passing our indebted mindset onto others. So what we're actually doing is we're buying your indebted mind, and I just listened to the video that he did, and they're talking about the debt being sold, and the fact that you need to pay somebody in order for you to be able to do that absolutely has gone my back up now end to such a degree where I'm standing here speaking to this camera. It's an illusion. You don't need lawyers. You don't need. You don't even need a promissory note in order for you to do this. You just need to learn what your rights are. So the Universal Law Community Trust is really doing what your government should be doing, but it's not. The kindness credits accounts are doing what your banking system are supposed to be doing. Well, actually, it's showing you what they are actually doing in the background of your own account. So when I see that somebody has come along and is bastardizing what it is that we're doing, then obviously I'm compelled to get this message out to the people who are potentially getting involved in this. When the debts are discharged, my 5 hours to you is the time that it takes in dealing with these companies that would ordinarily be coming knocking on your doors. Because the account has been assigned to us, they have to correspond directly with us, which they do for a one-off instantaneous action. And then when we file a Schedule A notice of a commencement of contract saying, look, this debt has been assigned to us, we're very happy to settle it on production of a proof of claim that the contract that you are claiming the liability of is valid. Now, this all comes back down to obviously the legal name. People say, well, you know, I entered into a contract with the bank and I borrowed money from them. You actually were coerced into fraud. You were coerced into using something that didn't belong to you in the first place, which is the legal fiction. You do not have a right of use or a license to use that legal entity. And if anybody can prove that you do, I'd love to see that. What obviously that means is that if you carry on using that legal entity, you're just going to be exacerbating the fraud. For us all then to wade through, because we're all as a community investing our energy into a community that is now based on a belief of fiction. So by going through the Universal Law Community Trust website, the idea is when you follow those steps is that it's closing these doors off in your mind, that you seem to think that you have got a liability somewhere, that first of all that you borrowed some money from somebody, and these are the questions that we then get down with the nitty-gritty to asking the banks if it gets that far. Who lent who what is just prove that. And obviously they can't prove that they lent you anything because they didn't. The act of you signing that agreement is the monetarisation and securitisation of your signature that created the money in the first place. Now, if it just stopped at that, then, and the bank were doing what they were supposed to be doing, which was to be giving you your access to your resources to survive in a financial surrounding that we granted the consent to by allowing the government to take our share of this planet and its resources held in trust and have them minister our financial needs to us, for example, and discharge the debt. So really what it is that you're doing, you're actually lending the money that you're then going to borrow from the bank, and the bank are actually laundering your need. So most people know that they have a trust that's created through the birth certificate, but whether you've got a birth certificate or not is completely irrelevant. You have got been granted by the Creator a right of use of this planet and its resources to support yourself from, and this is the divine contract that we're talking about under divine law. And this is why we created the Universal Law Community Trust. So you've got a place of standing that has no connection or jurisdiction or authority of by the system that is what we would call slavery issued to you through the Vatican, so that we don't have any part of it. We've stepped out of that. And in place of the legal fiction that you would normally be committing the fraud with, you have something called Minister Moven. Now, Minister Moven is energy and matter in movement, and you are the minister of that. And the reason why we've done that is because obviously under divine law, when it became and then when they started to dissect it and divide it into little pieces, ecclesiastical law is the standing of all of this fraud. So by you levelling the playing fields of your, not status, but standing, so where you stand under universal law. You are energy and matter in movement, and you to define yourself as anything else would be a lie. To define yourself as anything else, such as legal fiction, is to break that divine contract or agreement or connection that you've got with the Creator, and assigns all of your rights back, to the church. And then the church and the structure that the church has created, through their then ministers of economy, their ministers of state, then they can incorporate you as part of their slavery system as goods and chattel. So, as most people who would be watching this video know, that legal fiction can't own anything. You can only hold the title of the legal fiction and inherit all of the liabilities, which should have been discharged by your trust, by your government. Now, because they became a corporation, and long before that, but now in this reality that we're wading through now, this reality is that the government are there providing you with your public services. When they became a corporation, obviously that stopped. They turned the trust around so that you were not the beneficiary, and that they in fact made their corporations the beneficiary, and you became the debtor. So the structure readjusts that, it turns it back around so that you are the creditor, you're all of the titles, you don't need anybody interloping between you and your direct connection with the Creator, and it stops the usurping you in various roles. And what they've done is they've split every aspect of having an experience as a human being into, don't quote me on the word human, into a structure that they've got you every which way, everything that you do, every breath that you take, everything that you, every choice that you make is being gambled on. So your life becomes a casino, and inside that very curriculumed existence, you've only got various things to choose from, and it all boils down to the fact that everything that you've got to choose from in the name of freedom ultimately belongs to the corporations who are enslaving you through the use of their slave tokens that you need to use in order for you to be able to access your resources. Now that is not how it has to be. Okay, so that is not the way that it has to be, and the way that it has been working for the people that have got involved in kindness credits is that they have been putting in their slave tokens into a holding account so that they're banked out of use and out of existence. Now, because each one of those slave tokens would create, if it was used, it would create 10 more in debt to the power of 10. Then because that one slave token is now not going to be used in circulation, and to create that amount of the ratio of debt, we as a community credit you for the truth about that slave token being taken out of circulation, and by you not using it, you've actually cost the debt slave token system 10 times that in the debt that they cannot create. I hope that that's simple enough for people to be able to understand. So because you've taken that one slave token and you've put it in an account, that we obviously want to be able to give you the truth. And the truth about what's happening inside the Federal Reserve banking system. If you were to put that £1 euro slave token inside your account and use it, then you would be creating for every transaction times 10 debt, times 10, times 10, times 10. So because that one slave token is like you saying, hey guys, I know what's going on now. Here's my energy that was been converted into slavery, banked into an account, and I'm not going to use it. I don't want to use it because I know what's going on. So because in the Federal Reserve banking system, the truth about the ledger book system is that that would create 10 times that in debt. So for every one slave token you put in, you get 10 kindness credits equivalent. Now, those kindness credits accumulate in one column, and that then gives you a statement of credit. And that is then used in order for you to be able to say, right, okay, well, I've got the credit in order for me to be able to discharge the debt. What are you saying? You're saying, I know what's going on. I know that debt is fiction. I know that I'm the creditor, and I know that I create the credit. And I know, therefore, that if a company comes to me with a valid claim, I've got the credit in this banking monetary system to be able to discharge it. So it's why I've put it into columns is so that you can see what your transactions are actually doing in truth inside the Federal Reserve banking system. The reason I've done it like that is because we were going into the Securities Exchange Commission as a filer, and we were seeing that when you, let's say, paid £100 or €100 or $100 in their tip settlement service, you can see that they are actually, because you've paid it with the slave tokens, and that slave token has created the debt in the Federal Reserve banking system, that you have actually created credit for them, because your debt is their credit. Now we've switched that. Your debt is your credit. It's because what you've done is you've taken your indebted mind and you've put it into a different currency, a different frequency, and you're saying then to yourself, first of all, that I know what's going on. For every one of those slave tokens that I do not use at point of sale, I'm costing the slavery system 10,000 times that in debt. Okay? So in that one column, you are accumulating your credit. Now, because your kindness credit community thanks you for not compounding and supporting slavery, and so that we've all got to wade through it and use slave tokens and convert our energy as well to do an interaction with one another, This is our truth gift to you, really, to say, look, this is what your converted your energy, what your money exchange has actually created. Instead of the debt, it's created credit. Now, the other way that the people have been using this facility is for every time that you assign your debt into the kindness credit, into the We Buy Any Debt structure, immediately that creates you an assignment of consent. That gets a notification then sent to your kindness credit account. So let's say you've just sold 10 grand's worth of fictional debt. You've done your assignment of consent. Your account is now going to say that thank you very much for assigning your debt. You've just got 10,000 times 10 in credit because you just stopped creating debt for yourself and for everybody else. So it's not just the slave tokens that people are putting in and putting them into a holding account and not using them, and then what they're doing is they're issuing the kindness credits into the community. So what is legal tender? It's anything that is legal, that is accepted by your community as valid tender, as a method of exchange. So if I say to you, I don't want your money, I just want a jar of honey this week because we like honey and we haven't got any, then you would say, okay, well, I've got honey, and you give me what you need, and nobody needs the slave tokens. What we're doing is we're actually converting our energy into slave tokens, then going and buying, then going and accessing the things that we want, that we really need, whether it's a house or honey or clothes or whatever it is, and compounding our own slavery by accessing our resources. Imagine if you just took all that away and go to a shop and say, hey guys, here's my kindness credit account and I want this and this. At your one-stop shop, or you can go on the website and you can order whatever it is that you need on there. And because we've all discharged our indebted mindset, we're not all working in the slavery system, so that we're 55 hours a week to try and get the money to pay the fictional debt, so that we then can give 5 hours a week very freely into our community. So then we've got another column, and the column inside there is the equivalent then of the stock exchange, and it's called a kindness credit energy exchange. And it's like imagine a timeshare, imagine a time bank like RCI or II, the exchange mechanism that works for people who've got timeshare. Now, you might not want, let's say I make honey and you don't like honey, but the way that it works is that you're standing surety to everybody who's within the community. So let's say you're a builder and I grow food. So I'm putting in my 5 hours and I don't need a builder. But the woman who has given me a massage, she needs a builder. So I say to her, go onto the credit, or go into the kindness credit account and choose yourself a builder, what you need. So I'm going to give her food. She's going to give me a massage, and because I'm giving the builder food as well, if he needs the food, then he can turn around and say, hey, my liabilities are all covered by these accounts, so I can go and build whatever this woman, I can give this woman my 5 hours. So it's not just a direct exchange, it's a multi-directional exchange, so that it's worldwide and also a local level as well. And so you've got two platforms for your local community and for the worldwide community, where you can buy things from, I don't know, olive oil from Greece and you're sitting at home in Bradford somewhere. So every transaction that you do is creating you credit, and because the truth is that every transaction that you've been doing has been creating credit for the banking system and been creating and compounding the debt for the rest of us. So the kindness credit account's going to be live online in the next couple of weeks, and I would seriously suggest to people to just hang fire, compare what it is that you're seeing now, compare what it is that you are being coerced into. The process with the Universal Law Community Trust stops all of it. We're not just talking about your money, we're talking about the infringement of your rights. We're talking about you committing fraud with lawyers and solicitors and feeding your energy, or being coerced to feed this energy, to assign your consent back into a system by using the legal fiction. It's not called Universal Law Community Trust for nothing. It covers you universally in any situation that you might find yourself in, walking through this so-called reality. So by you having by you assigning your consent to the trust, you get a new ID card, and that ID card explains that all of your information is held in a trust, and that obviously if you've caused somebody loss, harm or damage, and it's obviously proven, that gets rid of the presumption and assumption of the administrative legal system out of your life, because so things like traffic offences, anything that's code, you are kept clean from being involved in anything that's not the law. So obviously if you've hurt somebody or you've damaged their property or caused harm, then you're now in a position where you can say, look, I'm really, really sorry, I did do that, it was an error, it was not intentional, and here is my ability to be able to discharge that liability that I've caused you without any involvement of some third-party interloper coming and parasiting on your and somebody else's liability and problem. Who are we to come and say, oh, you've got a problem and I'm going to make some money out of it? I mean, this is why I'm standing here speaking to you now, because this structure that's being proposed as a solution, where you're buying your way out of debt. Ask yourself one question: if Peter of England knew what he was doing, then why isn't he discharging his own debts? And why is he asking you to give him slave tokens? And why on earth would he be asking you to create a contract and create more fraud if he wasn't an agent for the system and being supported to be part of the three-pronged attack that he's talking about on his video? You don't need anybody else to do this for you. Which we've been proving in the shops that we've got. We've got shops that you come in and you buy your coffee with rocks. So the coffee costs €4.50 normally in a shop, €3.50 in a shop in Athens for a biological coffee. The actual cost of the coffee is 50 cents. Now, because we haven't got any liabilities and we haven't got these debts that we are talking about that we've discharged, and then we're saying, oh, we need to pay us because we haven't really done it, we can say to you, give us 50 cents and we'll give you a rock. And they're like, oh, okay, now you give me a rock, now what? Okay, you want a cup of coffee, don't you? Yeah, I want a cup of coffee, I'm down for a cup of coffee, just give me a coffee. There's the cup of coffee, now give me the rock back. It's one rock. The coffee costs at point of sale, it costs one rock. The receipt says one rock, one coffee. Now, what are you going to pay the tax with? Rocks. Do you need a license? No. Why don't you need a license? Because you are not creating a contract by using their fictional money in your transaction. You're clean. You've become private. Now, you can do this in your business. You can do a double entry ledger book system the same as they do. You can have your supplier invoice you in the normal slave tokens, and then you can convert your slave tokens that you get from your customer into rocks, into kindness credits, and then you've got your transaction of that bill of exchange, and then what you've actually done is you've taken the slave token from the customer to convert it into a rock, so you're a money exchange at the bank at point of sale. Then you give, obviously you can, if you do your job right, the guy at the other end, he's going to want rocks too, because he's not going to want to have to pay tax. The point is that he only has to pay tax if he's collected slave tokens. If you go to him and you say, right, well, I don't use slave tokens anymore in my transactions, you're going to teach him how he can do it too. So he's then going to turn around, he's going to see the benefit of that. It's legal corporate tax haven. It's a legal corporate tax haven for you to exist in, because there is no contract for you to pay tax. But the problem is that when you're using those debt slave tokens or their Visa card at your point of sale, you're in. You're back in. You created a contract. They can come and they can check your environmental health and all of those kind of things, and you've got to tick this box and this box before you even open your doors to give somebody a cup of coffee. This way you're completely out of the system. You are offshore wherever you go. You're a private individual, and you have no contract, so they have no jurisdiction whatsoever to even ask you, what are you doing? So for me, it's very easy to see the benefits of this, and we see the benefits daily of this. We're also at a stage now which we never imagined actually would happen, which is where we exchanged a kindness credit account, a kindness credit note, through a Federal Reserve banking system over the Christmas period, and it wasn't. I mean, that for us is a massive thing, because if you can just imagine, of everything that I just told you there, they've got a big pot, and in there they're reliant on the slave tokens coming in and out. In comes the kindness credit note, which is non-negotiable, no recourse, all rights reserved. That went into across the counter, didn't actually even go into anybody's account, and they cashed it. They checked the number. The number is a treasury account that's been assigned to the trust, and it was backed by that. And then the teller gave the guy 2,000 slave tokens. Now, yes, we don't really want him having the slave tokens, because he's going to go to the shop and he's going to buy shit with it. But what is more important than that is that inside the banking system, suddenly it's a great big hole of $20 million or euros or slave tokens worth of debt cannot be created. Yes, he's going to go and he's going to create that amount if he goes and passes that around, and people are going to obviously go and pay their bills with it and all that kind of thing. This is a guy who knows nothing about kindness credits. He knows nothing about universal or community trust. As part of our Happy Holidays contribution to our community, we went out and we gave away money dressed as ministers, and we just said, look, here, have a happy Christmas, take that to the bank. This guy called one of the ministers and said, I have to thank you, my priest, and for, I'm not going to kill myself this year, is actually what he said. He's having such a tough time of it, as we all are, and these 2,000 slave tokens made a massive difference to him in his family life. And he's obviously, he's very happy, and now he wants to know more about the trust. Now, for us, if he takes that 2,000 euros and he goes and pays his electricity bill, okay, he's going to go and he's going to create that amount of debt with that transaction. But the fundamental transaction of the bill of exchange, the exchange part, has created such a massive hole. How are they ever going to be able to account for that non-negotiable, non-recourse exchange? They're not. And the more people that take this and say, look, slave tokens don't represent me anymore, I'm not going to fund and credit the terrorist system. I'm taking my energy and my share of this planet and this resources, my intellectual capacity and my potential worth and value, and I'm going to put it over here. I'm not telling them where I'm putting it. That's the poditor, that's where the non-disclosure steps in. So suddenly you don't exist in their system. The most important thing that I think that people can understand, if you understand or if you want to know anything about how their system works, is one thing, that if the name of the thing is not known, the thing is lost. Now imagine that. Imagine 8 billion people or 7 billion people all suddenly going, my name's Minister MV. Hello. What is that going to do to their system? Even if 100,000 of you just turned around and said, I don't have a contract with you, I'm Minister MV, here's my ID card, that information that's inside the ID card is preserving all of my rights, so prove the claim and my trust will discharge the liability that I've caused somebody, which means that I don't need a third-party interloper in this transaction. And so you're keeping yourself with your divine contract with the Creator. You're standing in divine law. You're unalienable, therefore, unalienable. If you split the word up, it tells you what it is. A lien, which is a commercial charge, cannot be attached to you. Now, I know what I would like to see happen in 2020, and it is not for people who get this a little bit to go and be funneled and guided into this trap, which is what Peter of England has set up for you. The fact that he charged you 25 quid for your checkbooks when you, I mean, I had a massive argument with this guy in Nottingham when I met him after he told me that he had debased the universal source energy exhibited in a living being into a formula called RE, of resource, and I explained in great detail how that works, and I was just aghast. I said, how can you possibly live with yourself? What you've done is actually worse than what the Vatican's done. And then he asked us to put, it was Land Council then at the time, to put on our website his checkbooks, and I said, absolutely not. Have you not even looked at our website? If you look at the Kindness Credit, you print your own money, guys. You print your own money. We teach you this for free. You don't need a lawyer, and you have got all of your liabilities discharged, and you've got a new legal fiction for you to use, or for you to stop commerce being incorporated into your life. So, Peter of England, you can take this as a public notice. I am going to prosecute you for intellectual property theft and copyright infringement. And I also need to inform you that the evidence that we've got is that We Are Bank and your process doesn't work. We're actually, because we bought the debt that We Are Bank had created, so when the people had used the We Are Bank checkbooks and they didn't work, we actually bought that debt that you helped to exacerbate from the people, which means, and I'm sure you would have looked at this, is that Universal Law Community Trust are your creditors, and we are not going to stand by and let you do this to people. So, because obviously that wouldn't be the projection that we've all got for the next decade, because you're actually getting people to commit fraud and to fund and compound the slavery system, whichever way you dress it up, and you're taking money for it. So I wish you a beautiful new year, and I'm here to help you remedy the error that you just made.